What is the most exciting part about starting an RIA? That is today's question on the Transition to RIA question and answer series. It is episode number 109. Hi, I'm Brad Wales with Transition to RIA, where I help you understand everything there is to know about why and how to transition your practice to the RIA model. If you're not already there, if you start out by heading on over to transitiontoria.com, you can find all of the resources I make available from this entire series in video format, podcast format. I have articles, I have white papers, all kinds of things to help you better understand the model. Again, transitiontoria.com. Okay, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about what is the most exciting, fun part of starting an RIA, and this actually applies to whether you're starting an RIA or joining an RIA that's of the 1099 variety, and you'll see what I mean by that. But we'll just refer to started an RIA. The reason I wanted to do this topic is because the reality of moving into the RIA model, making a transition, is a lot of work. I never underplay that. There's a lot of work on the front end that it even starts just on the very front end, which is a lot of what I help advisors with, is just that education piece. How does this RIA model even work? Does it make sense for your practice? What would it look like for your practice if you were to move into it? There's a lot of work that just goes into that education piece, let alone if you decide, yes, this is a good fit for me, putting all the pieces into place and all the planning that goes into that. That's a lot of work. And then when you get to the actual transition, that certainly is a lot of work. And so we're talking many, many, many months of hard work. I never downplay that. However, as I've talked about on so many episodes, the benefits of having gone down that path far outweigh the temporary hard work that, yes, you will have to go through to get to the other side, to get to where you want to be with your practice. But along the way, what I want to talk about in this episode is, okay, yes, it's a lot of hard work. Yes, it's a lot of steps involved, which, by the way, if you don't have, I have a one-page checklist that kind of identifies the main variables involved in making a move to move your practice, transition your practice into the RIA model. If you haven't seen that or you don't have it and you like it, go to the website, transitiontoria.com, this contact page. You can reach out to me. Happy to send it to you. But there's a lot of items that have to be addressed through that whole hard work process, that planning process. And a lot of those, most of those are what I call blocking and tackling steps. They are the not sexy parts of what needs to be done to put this into place, but they need to be done. They are those foundational pieces. Picking an E&O provider for your firm, there's nothing exciting about that. There's nothing sexy about that. But that's a necessary part of the steps involved. Again, I help folks identify all the steps, how to solve for all the steps. But there's a lot of things like that. And so it's kind of like buying a new home. When you walk into your new home, you want to automatically start thinking about, wow, I can decorate, and this is where we'll hang out. This is where we'll put the TV. But there's possibly a lot of blocking and tackling things you need to be doing. There might be light switches or lights that are broken that you need to fix. So those are the necessary blocking and tackling, but they're not necessarily fun. So the question is, what's the equivalent fun steps, exciting steps of transitioning your practice into the RIA model? Again, that's what we're going to be talking about here. And the main answer, and then I'll give you a couple breakdowns, that where advisors start to get excited, and I can see it on there, and they're excited to share things with me and talk about it, is where you're starting to build that company and build that brand that you will now have with this new practice. And so the first part of that is picking the name of your firm and having that brand. That is yours. This is about to be your company. So if you've been with a W-2 firm your entire life, you've been an employee your entire life, all of a sudden, wow, this is about to be your firm, as I say, your baby. It is very excited to start thinking about these things. Man, what do I want to call myself? What's that brand going to be? How am I going to kind of put that brand out there? And yes, some of you that have maybe been in a W-2 group have allowed to use kind of a quasi brand. You might be the Smith Group of XYC brokerage firm, but the reality is there's always that byline in there. you can't brand it kind of however you want to. So for the first time, for many advisors that are moving into the model, this is their first chance. Well, I get to have a name. That's the main, that's possibly the only name on the sign. That's the first exciting part. What do you want to call yourself? What's that brand? I mean, you can visualize it. You can start getting excited about it. And then where that kind of begins to start to evolve, and the exciting part is, okay, now often next step in the process, okay, now I need a logo, because now I can have a visual for what this brand is going to be like, which as a sidebar, I got no skin in this game. A lot of advisors, there's different websites you can go to get logos. A good one is logobids.com. If you want to check something out, you have a chance to essentially kind of fill out a little questionnaire, say what you're after, and then all kinds of folks will create logos that you get to pick from. And that's an exciting thing, because when you can see, you might have an idea in your head of, wow, I have this brand, it's coming alive. Wow, what would that logo look like? And I know it might seem something like a trivial thing, but that's where the logo really starts to come alive, because that's what's going to be on signage. That's what's going to be on your website. That's what's possibly going to be on a business card. And so being able to do something like a logo bids and see all these different versions of it and get a pick, wow, which one do I like? And advisors often, they'll share them with me. They'll say, hey, can I bring this up on my screen? I want to show you what I narrowed it down to. And oh, here's the one I like the best. And oh, here's my family likes, they think this one's better, or this color scheme. And you can see the excitement. It just starts to bring it alive with that visual. So again, after you pick that name, now you're starting to build the brand. You're creating that logo. That's what gets exciting. And then once you have a logo, the next big step in kind of the process, and it's just one of those items that you're working through concurrently to move towards that transition day. So, okay, you're going to need a website. And don't worry about how do I create a website. Again, that's what I help advisors with. That's just one of the pieces on the checklist. How do I create one? There's all kinds of wonderful industry-specific vendors out there that will help you with that. Of all different kind of tiered service levels and pricing packages and all those sorts of things. But the website takes the name and the logo one step even further, because now you're really seeing your message. This idea that maybe you've had in your mind for years of, wow, if I were to start my own firm, this is how it would look. These are the kind of services we would offer. This is how I want to message it out to my community. And the website is what starts to bring that alive. And so it's fun to see advisors where they get, essentially that they'll work with a website design company, and then they'll kind of get that first draft back. And then oftentimes they'll share it with me. I'll be on a Zoom and say, hey, can I share my screen? Let me show this to you. And you can see the excitement, because again, the vision is coming alive. You've maybe thought for a long time about, this is how I would do it if I was independent. And now you are starting to do it. And the website, while the website won't go, fully live until your actual launch date, but wow, it is now becoming real. This is what I am going to be putting out there to the public. And that is very exciting to be able to share and to see. And it still takes a lot of work, particularly a website, to make a website. There's a lot of work that goes, a lot of back and forth with the designer, the copywriting. Maybe you need professional photos of you and your team and how you're going to present that. So it's not to say that this is not still work, but this is the fun work. This is the exciting work. Put the blocking and tackling aside for a moment. This is where it starts to come alive. So the website's a very exciting part, a very fun part of moving towards transition into your own RIA. And so then once you have the website up, another example where advisors get excited, have about, is as you start building out the office. Now, some of that is blocking and tackling. So going out there and determining, are you going to own an office? Which, by the way, I did a recent episode on that you might want to check out. Are you going to lease an office? Where's the location going to be? If you're leasing, you got to negotiate leases. And then even once all this is in place, do you need to do build out? That is a lot of work. And some of that is less glamorous than other parts. But once you have an office picked out, and particularly once you've kind of figured out where the walls are going to go, or you got the internet hooked up, and again, not all of that is super exciting, but where that brand, that name starts to creep back into it. And again, I see advisors share this stuff with me as you start putting that signage. So whether it's that logo or how you gonna signage and font you're gonna use for the name of your firm, and you'll see that whether it's a sign out, you've got a kind of the draft made of what the sign will look like that's gonna hang outside, and wow, you can start to visualize it. Or hey, it's a glass door on the front, and it's now been etched into the glass, and wow, that is my business right there. That is coming alive. Or maybe it's your clients walk in and the first thing they come across is, kind of a reception desk, and one of your team members might sit there, and behind that team member is this beautiful sign with your logo and your name on it. And again, I've had plenty of advisors that will send, but completely unsolicited on my part, that will send pictures. They are so excited, so proud that when the new sign goes up, and they're still building out the office, but the new sign's up, and they'll have someone take a picture because, again, it's their business, their baby coming to life, and that's fun for me to be able to be part of, because it's an exciting journey to see people becoming entrepreneurs. And it's all the steps so far, but certainly that office setup, that office signage, whether the etching on the door or something as simple as that, it can be very exciting because, again, for those of you that have never had a company before, you've maybe always wanted to have your own business, and here it is literally, physically coming to life. That's a very exciting part of this process. And then just the last example I'll give of this kind of excitement and fun part of branding is, and you can't get ahead of yourself on this, but as all of this starts to come into place, and it's a reminder of the newfound freedom and flexibility you're going to have that you likely haven't had, particularly if you've been at a W-2, a wirehouse type firm your whole career, that all of a sudden you can call yourself essentially whatever you want to call yourself. You can put the name out there and the logo out there and the sign out there however you want. And so all of a sudden the wheels start flowing, maybe more so than they ever have. And you also start thinking about, wow, well, okay, after I get this launched, and again, this is where you need to have patience, because what I'm going to talk about next, a lot of this can and should be addressed after launch, because you do have enough steps you need to be focused on for now. But hey, what new business development techniques could I use with this new freedom, this new flexibility that I have? And it's not that you haven't perhaps thought of some of these things prior, but it will really start to come alive. And so maybe as you're building out that office and you realize, well, this is going to be mine, I can do whatever I want, and you have an extra spare office in the room, you might think, hey, maybe I want to have a podcast. And oh, wow, I could do the podcast recordings back here and make a little mini studio. That's where I could release the podcast. Or maybe you like the idea, as I do, of doing videos, and all of a sudden the juices start flowing, and it's like, this is going to be exciting. I don't want to say do whatever you want, because there are some general industry rules you can't violate. You can't go and make guarantees to clients and stuff like that. So I'll hedge it by saying you can't do anything you want. But on a creative front, you generally can do most anything you want. And this is where it really starts to come alive. Again, as advisors start to physically see the logo, the website, the office, and you start thinking about, wow, what do I want to do from that business development standpoint? What have I seen other advisors, perhaps in your town, do, whether it's a podcast or they have signage, or they're doing videos, or they're writing articles, or they're writing white papers, or whatever they want to do. And all of a sudden, you can start thinking about, wow, that's fun stuff. Not just fun, but will be effective things that I want to do, that now that I will be able to do those things. And again, the challenge is start getting excited about that stuff. Start getting excited about that stuff now, even if you're very early in this process. Say, okay, what if I did all this? What if I made that transition? What are some of those things I'd want to implement? But the key is having that patience, because there's just so many steps involved here. Now, if you have, for instance, a podcast now, somehow you're pulling that off at your current firm, whatever their constraints are, yes, it'll be important to make sure you're continuing on that. Hopefully you're allowed to, take that, what they might consider proprietary episodes. Hopefully you're allowed to take that with you. But for many of you, you haven't been able to do any of these things, and it's all going to be new. But the key is just to have that patience. Say, okay, hey, let me do all the legwork, all the planning, all the blocking and tackling to get to the point of the transition. Let me do all the transition. By the way, you got to rally your team. It's going to be a lot of work for them. Let me get them through it as well. Let's catch our breath. Let's get our new world figured out. And then by all means, I have all these fun ideas of great things I want to start doing from a marketing perspective or business development perspective. And then you can start doing them. In theory, you could do them from the jump. I just caution people, have that patience. But it is okay to start getting excited because you're doing so much work. There's nothing wrong with start having that vision. Say, man, I can't wait till I can get to that point and start doing those things. So that's just a couple of the examples of where I see advisors most excited, having the best kind of fun. Again, that's, I guess, a tough word to use, or not tough word, but excited or fun of the transition process. And you deserve to have a little of that because you are doing so many other things that are perhaps not fun. but it does start to come alive. So the kind of just two takeaways I'll leave you with is just know, again, for those of you that have never had a business, started a business, become an entrepreneur, it is a special feeling when that starts to click, when that starts to come alive. This is going to be your business, your baby. I know this firsthand. I worked in a W-2 corporate world for almost 20 years before starting my own business. There is something special about it. There is a special feeling about it. You will gladly put in way more hours working for your own business, your own baby, than you will ever for someone else. And once you've tasted that, it just drives you, it excites you. And so just know that that feeling's coming, and that's part of the reward for going through all this. Now, I don't want, there's a lot to make all this successful. Again, I never want to rose-colored glasses and oversell something, but it is one of the big benefits of being able to go on your own, is to be that business owner, be that entrepreneur. That's very exciting for the advisor. It's exciting for me to observe and help advisors become entrepreneurs. But you too will have that feeling if you go down through this path. And then the final point I'll make, I don't want to belabor this point because I've already mentioned it quite a bit, is just even with all this fun stuff, you still need to do the blocking and tackling. You still need to know what those items are to do the blocking and tackling, and you still need to work through them. Oftentimes you want to prioritize them to know what order to tackle them in to get you from that original kind of idea phase all the way to the other side of the mountain there. That's something I'm happy to help you with. That's a typical part of what I help advisors with. Happy to discuss that with you as well. First things first, though, if you head on over to transitiontoria.com, as I said at the top, you can find all of the resources I provide to help you better understand the model from this entire series in video format, podcast format. I have articles, I have white papers, and at the top of every page is a contact link. If you click on that, you can instantly and easily schedule time to have a one-on-one conversation with me, whether you want to talk about any of today's fun, exciting topics or that blocking and tackling or all of it. I'm happy to have that conversation with you as well. Again, transitiontoria.com. And with that, I hope you found value on today's episode, and I'll see you on the next one.